Hello everybody. The morning after the night before. First things first. Absolute credit to Brighton and Hove Albion, who played very, very well and absolutely deserved the 3 points in that game. Obviously very, very disappointed from our point of view. But you can't sit here and say that we didn't get what we deserved. We did, absolutely did, and it's really, really disappointing. I always try to avoid doing videos straight after because your passion and your feelings about what you perceive at the time kind of all come out, and it gets sensationalized. So I try to spend a little bit of time letting it settle down, letting me kind of get over it, get over the loss and so on before I kind of speak about it. But for me, I just felt that it was always going to be a tall order, with Romero being out as well, and it kind of leaves us in a situation where we're back to using two wing backs, or left back, right back, whatever you want to call it, playing at centre back. And when you're playing a high line in the way that we do, it's always going to be a risk. Now, I absolutely understand why Postecoglou went with Emerson Royal, obviously due to his pace and his ability to kind of cover back and so on. And to be fair, Ben Davies has done a fairly good job over the course of the last sort of few weeks since the injury to Van der Ven. So you can't really blame them totally for this. I'm just trying to pick my words. I'm trying to be pragmatic and honest. We all know where this kind of goes back to. It goes back to the lack of investment and all the rest of it over the course of the time. But what you also have to consider is that it's only been a short period since Postecoglou took over, and the change in this team and the squad and the feeling has been massive. But when you're doing well and playing well, expectation rises. And I've seen some horrendous quotes from people talking about, how Postecoglou is naive and needs to change his ways and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, no, why would you want them to do that? Why would you want them to play defensive football just because that's the type of play you've got? You're trying to build a way of playing, a winning mentality, a never die attitude. And by just changing what you're doing shows that you don't believe in what you're doing as being the right thing. Of course, you are going to have these problems because the players that you would want to play in those positions aren't there. So that has to be addressed. Absolutely has to be addressed. But it's not going to be addressed in one window. And I think the key thing that Postecoglou said the other day was it has to be the right player. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a left-footed player or a right-footed player or whatever. It has to be the right player. And as fans, you have to trust in the manager to do the right thing, to get the right players, providing it's the manager making the decisions about the players and how they do that. Now, if they're doing that by using data analysis and so on and so forth, and that's what's brought in the players so far that they've brought in over the last sort of couple of seasons and so on, then you've got to say, there's been some winners in there. Your Kulusevskis, your Bentancurs, your Udogi, your Vicarios, those kind of players, your Madisons, those players have been brought in because it's perceived that they're going to be the right players, and generally speaking, they have been. The difficult thing about it is they haven't been available for large periods for whatever reason, whether it be suspension or whatever. Anyway, going back to the game last night, always going to be difficult. You're playing with a lot of players out. and you're playing against a team that have beaten big teams, had some poor results as well, bit of a mixed bag. But the reality is they've been going through a lot of injuries as well. They had a lot of first team players out, but they came at us, they played their game, they pushed on, and our players couldn't handle it. They couldn't handle the pressure, and panic started to set in. You could see very much Vicario was, kicking long, which is not something that Postecoglou really wants him to do. But if you've got no trust in your centre-back pairing and you're under a lot of pressure, then that pushes that situation on. And to be fair, Vicario was my man of the match. If it wasn't for him, we'd have been probably... I don't think it's too much to say. We could have been 6 down at half-time. Pulled off some immense saves. They hit the post a couple of times. And we were in real trouble. And I was really glad to see the half time come. I said to my mate who sat next to me watching the game that for me, I think it's really important that we get the next goal. If we don't get the next goal, then there's no chance. But I still felt fairly confident that we could get something out of the game if the manager could get hold of the players and really get into them and give them some belief. Then we had an opportunity to get back into it, but we needed that first goal, and of course that didn't come. You saw a fantastic effort by a Brighton player, unstoppable. There's no way you're gonna stop that going in. So it was pretty much all but over by then. Okay, let's talk about the first goal. So the first goal, disappointing, under a lot of pressure. Ben Davies dropped too deep, played the player onside, he was miles onside, thumped it, goal, well deserved, well taken. So you think, okay, we can live with that. Then you're watching the corner that came in, and the pushing and the shoving and all the rest of it, and the shirt holding. Now, we see that so often. You see it in every game. If every penalty that should be given was given for the things like shirt pulling, pushing, pulling, blocking, all that kind of stuff, you'd probably have 15 penalties a game. But when it's blatant like that, when you can clearly see he's dragging his shirt back, and it will make a difference if he's going for that kind of theatrical shot, it's going to look like he's pulled him right back. You show it in slow motion, it looks even worse. It was a penalty. No doubt in my mind that that's a penalty. Exactly what you get exactly what you deserve in that situation. So poor from Kulu for doing that. But it happens constantly. So really there's nothing you can say about that, and it was well deserved. Second penalty worth talking about. Again, really stupid decision. Why would you tackle from behind, number one? Why would you tackle behind in the box, number two? Why would you tackle like that when you've got players in front of you? You are asking for trouble. So Gio, he does that. It's a poor tackle. It's a forwards tackle. And then that's it. You are literally chasing shadows at that point. I guess the only saving grace in any of this was the way that we then came back into the game scoring a couple of goals. Now, the thing about that is those goals came from the fact that Brighton stopped pushing. So as soon as they stopped pushing, as soon as they dropped a little bit deeper, we then were able to play our game. So they kept us at bay for all that time. Now, had they scored the 2 goals and then dropped deep and kind of, took their foot off the gas a little bit and not gone for those additional goals, we could have got back into that game. But they didn't. They thought about it and they went, no, we're going to keep going, we're going to keep pushing, which is exactly what we want from our team to do. We don't want them to lose momentum. We want them to really go for it and smash a team 4 or 5. So really disappointing that it was so late in the game that they did that. And again, Richarlison, a couple of really good opportunities, offside, and people were complaining about his offside, but it's so tight. These offsides are so tight. You know, a minute move back, or the defender's minute move forward, and you're bang on line. So it's really disappointing, and you can't knock the guy. He's done 4 goals in 3 games. You know, give him a little bit of credit. And then, of course, we hit the post a couple of times. So there, for the grace of God, go high. But there's no getting away from the fact that it was a poor performance. I think the other thing that really struck me in the game, I didn't feel that Brennan Johnson got into the game enough. And I was a little bit concerned about his lack of crossing and so on. And I know he's become the latest scapegoat, which I think is totally unfair. And I'm not calling him out and saying that he was the problem. But what I felt was it would have made sense in my mind when we were a couple of goals down there to maybe move Kulu back out to the right and bring Lo Celso in. That might have given us, I felt like we needed someone in the middle who could get hold of the ball and actually do something. So I was a little bit surprised with the substitutions. I didn't think they were the right substitutions. Although, you know, obviously they made them. We got 2 goals back into the game. Ange knows better than I do. He gets paid the big bucks. But it was just how I felt. What I felt we needed was someone on the ball who could actually hold it. Someone out wide who might be able to cross it a little bit more. So yeah, a little bit disappointed in that. I was surprised at Richarlison coming off, because he's a goal scorer and he's been in good form. Against Sarr, I thought was decent. So, you know, but this is one of those games where you have to dust yourself off and go, right, okay, it's coming, it's going to come. This season was never going to be an easy one, or, you know, a massive progression to just automatically walk into that top 4. I didn't think it's going to be that easy. I think there's a lot of work to do, and I think we have to keep our feet on the ground and stop being reactionary. As I say, some of the stuff I've read is just unbelievable. You know, Johnson becoming the scapegoat, Son not wanting to play because he's going to the Africa Cup and to the Asia Cup. You know, Richarlison is now automatically crap. Honestly, Davies getting slated again after a man of the match performance, you know, not that long ago. It's like, we're just so reactionary fans. It's just ridiculous. And I think you just need to take a little bit of time, let things settle down, you know, process what's happened, and go, okay, we lost the game, it's time to move on. There's a game in a couple of days, we need to regroup and see where we go from there. Obviously, Kudasesi getting a yellow card means he's out, so that's even more things for Ange to think about, where he goes from there. Could see the return of Lo Celso back in that position with, you know, very little change to the rest of the team. So we'll see where it goes from there. But for me, I think, you know, we've got one more game before January. Let's see what kind of recruits we get in. Let's see what it's like when you get Madison and Bentancur back. You know, you've got Van der Ven to come back. We've got Romero to come back. Let's see where we go. Let's see where we are. You can't judge until the end of the season. And as I said many times, if we get into Europe this season, that will be a success for me. The fact that we won so many games at the start of the season set false expectations in my head. And I think we need to think about this a little bit more and give it time. Give it time. It's all you can do. You're not going to go off and support anybody else, are you? So what you got to lose? Get behind the team, get behind the manager, give them our support, and hope that we can move on. We've had some good results go our way so far over this weekend, and that still leaves us in a really good position. I think we're a point behind City in 4th, you know, 6 points or whatever it is off the top. So anything can happen, and we've seen some really interesting results come up. Would never have thought West Ham was going to beat Arsenal at home, but they did. So keep the faith. Up the Spurs.